Vision and desire. These can be genuine or selfish. Even when they are authentic, the means chosen to live them can be distorted. This reminds us that human life is complex. Change can come quickly in response to an insight, to a crisis, or to an emergency. It can come slowly over time also. The quality of choices made reveal much, even if the evidence for this unfolds gradually. Taking a direction that is a little offline may need some time to be recognized, but it can become much more apparent as it gets further removed from the declared target. Reflection enables us to see the fruits as everything is not noticed at the time. We can lose direction, getting caught in short-term issues. A number of small decisions can lead to a significant change of direction in life and lead us to wonder and surprise as to how we got here. In Matthew chapter 7 we read, "By their fruits you shall know them." In a world racing along at a frenetic speed, the imminent tends to reign while the transcendent is stifled. The immediate can prevail and the long term can be sacrificed. The availability of so many labor-saving devices can give us the illusion that we are in control, whereas in reality we have become prisoners in many ways. We are easily dominated by the demands of work, the pace of life, and the many things to be done, so there's little time to be and to notice the deeper realities. The availability of so much, the many new products, the ease of purchasing online with credit cards, with the skill of the media and the subtlety of the advertising world designed to pull us in, can trap us so easily. It is a competitive world where we can end up buying bargains that we do not need and will scarcely use. The new has made much available that is an improvement on what was. There has been a digital revolution, much progress in technology, more environmentally friendly cars, faster means of communication, easier access to information, better quality medicines and healthcare, and so on. These are means to an end, but that ends need to be kept clarified and in focus. This calls for choices to be made about the priorities, about relationships, and about the planet. People can end up having comfortable houses with financial security, but with little time for each other and for the deeper level of communication. Seeing people on public transport or in restaurants engrossed with their phones, where they scarcely talk to each other, indicates a shift in our culture. Virtual relationships or virtual hugs are a poor substitute for the real thing. This trend could be seen as a wake-up time, to pause to reflect on what is and is happening, to assess its real merits. It does raise the question as to what we really want in life and how we go about attaining it. One way of assessing the current situation is to look at it in the light of the Sabbath and the temptations. It could be said that in our culture, it's losing the sense of the Sabbath and giving greater latitude to the temptations that draw us away from it. The Sabbath and Sabbath time have been a significant part of life for a long time. We read about it at the end of the story of creation, where it tells us God resting on the seventh day and that God blessed the seventh day and made it holy in Genesis 2. The Israelites had the experience of slavery in Egypt and were commanded to take a day of rest by the Mosaic law. The Sabbath was well framed and enclosed within boundaries that to a large extent were impermeable. For the Pharisees in Jesus' time, the focus seems to have drifted onto the rules and regulations of what could or could not be done on that day. The true focus of the Sabbath was lost. It became more like a burden. It was meant to be a day for the sacred and for rest, respecting and recognizing our dignity as God's children and our special place in creation. It reminds us that we are stewards of creation, not dominators of it, as it's God's gift shared with us, reminding us of our place in it. What has gone on over recent times indicated a radical shift. Work has come to dominate us rather than the opposite. The busyness of life has taken over and there's little Sabbath time. A new form of slavery has come to the fore. The boundaries have become porous, and the sacred territory has been greatly reduced in size and in meaning, so much so that the Sabbath is scarcely recognizable from what surrounds it. Much of the sacred territory has been taken over for other purposes. For many, the Sabbath has become a day to catch up on shopping or other activities that could not be fitted into the busy week. Its true meaning and its place in life has been diminished or lost. It is meant to give space to God for rest and for one another. Something of that rest and of the sacred has been gradually eroded, which gave space for God and for ourselves. It pointed the way to a balanced life, keeping perspective before us. Jesus respected the Sabbath and went to the synagogue on that day, as you'll find in Luke chapter 4. He wanted to clarify its true meaning and its place in the lives of the people. Jesus worked miracles in the temple on the Sabbath, such as the curing of the crippled woman in Luke 13. He availed of this curing to speak of the true meaning of the day, as he did with the episode of the disciples picking ears of corn and being accused of violating the Sabbath. Jesus said, "The Sabbath was made for humankind, and not humankind for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." The Sabbath was intended to help people, to provide rest and not to burden. It reminded them of who they truly were and their destiny. Our present situation shows us that something of the creative and the reflective dimension of the Sabbath has been lost, leading to a blurred vision that is taken up with the more immediate. Many of the signposts of life that are pointing now in the wrong direction, and we are slow to recognize this, steering us away from truth and life. With less time and less space for oneself and for the Lord, there is a loss that can be filled with some form of temporary compensation. It can be said that other gods have taken over, such as work, shopping, or fitness. They are given time, they involve cost, they are the new temples of worship. Priorities become clear from the experience of how people live, relate, and where they invest time and energy. Poor choices have been made. The Lord has been crowded out, and with that, time for genuine rest. The current trend points to a failure to understand who we are and the true meaning of life. Passing interests and loves can replace what is more authentic. The gift of God may not be appreciated, and this can lead to losing the gift. Many are stressed, living with high anxiety, worn down by life's demands, and this can lead to some form of depression and failure to renew the spirit. Work and other demands tend to dominate. There are people who are not at ease with quiet. It has to be filled with some noise or activity. Busyness can enable escape from the vacuum that does not rest easily, but the inner life is not nourished by too much activity. The loss of the sense of the Sabbath and the temptations of life are linked. The quality of decisions made illustrate this. We could reflect on the current trend in the light of the temptations of Jesus, that these are the temptations of every age and of each of us. Firstly, there's the appeal of the quick fix, the easy solution, the more immediate gratification to having it now. Turn these loaves into bread and be satisfied, but leave the deeper hunger unsatisfied. Waiting is seen as a waste of time in a busy world. It is a temptation to the slavery of the immediacy. Then the second temptation is to popularity, to vainglory, to being liked and well thought of, having a high profile, to be seen as one who is in the flow and up to date. The advertising world appeals to that kind of vanity and reassures us that we are worth it. The third temptation can be understood as building one's own kingdom, to having control, autonomy, and authority, to be able to decide for oneself with much scope for individualism. Modern busyness gives greater scope to these temptations, just as the temptations give more reasons to be busy and to be concerned with the more immediate, with oneself at the centre. The absence of gospel values or the less influence of God gives greater scope for human selfishness to dominate. We can be held prisoners by the superficial or the practical. The Sabbath has been robbed of its true meaning, and we are all much poorer as a result. A gradual erosion of values over recent years leaves us in a far different space to where the Sabbath was sacred. There has been loss that is more evident as we get further away from what we were created to be. The temptations offer a challenge that can lead us to concede to them or to choose well. We can resist temptations and make better choices. Scripture reassures us of that. God's grace is sufficient for us no matter what we encounter. 2 Corinthians 12. St. Paul reminds us that no testing has overtaken you that is not common to everyone. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tested beyond your strength. But with the testing will also provide the way out so that you may be able to endure it. Therefore, my dear friends, flee from the worship of idols in 1 Corinthians 10. This message is very relevant in our time where idols are worshipped in many forms. We need some sense of recreation, renewal, refreshment to be energized again. We need Sabbath time as it respects who we are, what we are made for, as well as giving us space and time for the Lord and for each other. We are reminded to keep perspective and to find a balance in life, to facilitate being renewed in spirit by the Lord. We can accept the invitation to the restful waters where the Lord leads us and restores us, as we read in Psalm 23. The ultimate invitation is to rest in the Lord. This asks us to recognize where we are and how we got here, so that we can return to the road that leads to life. Choose life, as Deuteronomy 30 reminds us. We need Sabbath time, with the freedom to choose wisely, which is the Lord's desire for us. So for reflection, I suggest a few questions. Where do you find Sabbath time? What gods tempt your Sabbath time? How does the prevailing trend influence your choices? If you like some scripture texts, the temptations of Jesus as recounted at the beginning of Matthew chapter 4, 1 Corinthians 10 verses 13 to 14, where we're not tested beyond our strength. Or Mark chapter 2 verses 23 to 28, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. God be with you.